Now, horror movies are many things to many people. Some of us like the classic slashers, some of us like the creatures and cosmic horrors from beyond the realm of human understanding, and others prefer the more reserved, quieter character studies in evil. We love them all. But I'm sure the one thing all horror fans can agree on is a need for a proper last-second gut punch. Whether you're talking about a last-second jump scare, or something more subtle like Hannibal Lecter meeting an old friend for dinner.
I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner.
Your movie absolutely needs to stick the landing. Winterwolf has hunted down 9 of the best, and in his not-so-humble opinion, best horror movie endings. And here they are in no particular order. Number 9, The Mist. Let's get this one out of the way right up front. The Mist can be found at the top of lists like this going back like 2 decades at this point, and for good reason. While the movie itself is just about as textbook mid as you'll ever get, the last 5 minutes has left audiences gasping in shock for 2 decades. In a full-on deviation from the Stephen King novel, wherein the final handful of survivors make it to safety, the film version opts to have the main character shoot dead his companions, including his own young son, whose wide-eyed stare as he wakes up from a well-deserved nap and finds himself staring down the barrel of his father's gun still haunts my dreams. And that's only the first half of the gut punch. Less than a minute later, and seconds from taking his own life, the United States Army comes rolling through, flamethrowing the extra-dimensional threats and ferrying a convoy of survivors to safety. Kudos director Frank Darabont. Even King thought this was the better ending. Number 8, The Descent, UK version. The Descent debuted back in the day with 2 different theatrical endings. In the States, you saw a movie about a character trying to deal with grief and loss and trauma, go on a girl's weekend away, complete with a little wine tasting, Bechdel test passing, and spelunking. It goes south when the ladies get caught in a cavern system after a cave-in and realize they're stuck with a bunch of albino, Nosferatu-inspired Oompa Loompas from hell. Eventually, though, final girl Sarah wins out and escapes to safety, after one by one the group is picked off in various disgusting and sometimes heartbreaking ways. The real gut punch comes in the UK version, when Sarah apparently escapes the subterranean nightmare and sees a vision of her bloodied rival Juno in the car beside her, and then passes out. After a quick fade to black, it's revealed she's still in the cave, and the worst is yet to come. Number 7, Night of the Living Dead. Back before The Walking Dead and its 11 spin-offs, Train to Busan, World War Z, Warm Bodies, Zombieland, there was the Romero franchise that started it all. By today's standards, Night of the Living Dead would probably be considered plodding, slow, uneventful. That was anything but the case back in 1968. For all the dated effects and harsh lighting on the black and white presentation, the movie provides insight into the politics and culture of the day at the height of the civil rights era. When the finale resolves and our lead characters are about to get their lives back, bang! Lead character Ben, played by Dwayne Jones, takes a bullet from one of the local good old boys, who ambiguously may or may not have known that Ben wasn't a zombie. Ouch! Number 6, The Thing. Now check out our double team review of The Thing for a more in-depth look at this masterpiece. More than half of The Thing's effectiveness comes from the sense of isolation you feel, being transported to the remote setting of the Antarctic research base that MacReady and the others are stationed at. Thus, when the final credits are about to roll, and all that's left standing between MacReady and Childs, and the sure obliteration of the desolate, unforgiving cold awaiting them, are a handful of flickering fires, and a half bottle of booze, and the uneasy knowing that the other may in fact be the monster that you'd hope to kill. It's hard to not get a little bummed out. Number 5, Drag Me to Hell. I know this one's going to be a bit controversial in a 2023 timeline where more and more people have become more sympathetic to labor causes. But back in 2009, the sentiment did lean more toward bank loan officer Christine Brown, played by Alison Lohman. When asked by a woman for a third mortgage on her home, Brown denies her. She's been advised by her boss at the bank that she needs to make tougher decisions if she wishes to compete for a promotion. The customer then curses Brown to be tormented by a demon for 3 days before being dragged to hell, on account of her humiliation and shaming her for the denial of the mortgage. The movie happens, and the curse makes good on itself in the closing scene after looking like Brown had survived. A fiery demon does indeed appear to drag her to hell, and you just can't help but feel bad for Brown, who really didn't do anything wrong, and who objectively did nothing to humiliate the Romani woman who had cursed her. Number 4, Pet Sematary. Louis Creed is a character study in Fool Me Once dumbassery. This is a guy who experiences firsthand the soil having gone sour, only to go back to the proverbial well, not once, not twice, but 3 times, while knowing what's fully coming his way. Dumbass. I mean, after trying the burial ground with a cat and getting your face mauled, and your kid, and then watching him slice up your wife and your neighbor, what on earth did you think was going to happen if you put a full-grown adult in that ground up there? while not as gut-punchy, I suppose, as some of the other entries on the list, it does definitely leave you with the kind of creepy, sickened feeling when we see Mrs. Creed enter the room looking over Lewis's shoulder at the film's conclusion. Winter Wolf's Den bonus. Say what you want about the 2018 remake of Pet Sematary, but I found the ending here somehow even more haunting, considering who came back from the dead in this one and what it meant for the lone survivor of the film. Number 3, The Strangers. You're a young couple on a holiday or a weekend staycation. You're minding your own business, maybe trying to work through a rough patch in the relationship, or hell, maybe you're just celebrating a promotion you got over that dickhead grant in accounting that nobody likes. That's your setup. So how do you get from here to gut punch bleak ending? Well, you have a few masked psychos show up at your house and play cat and mouse for about 80 minutes worth of your life before being shivved to death in one of your kitchen chairs. And yeah, you might think that's pretty bleak when you ask the psychos, why are you doing this? And they simply answer,
because you were home.
But it's nowhere near as bleak and unsettling as when the credits are about to roll and the killers are driving off into the sunset and you hear one of them say to the other, reassuring them, it'll be easier next time. Dude, that shit fucked me up for days. Number 2, Wicker Man. No, not the Nicolas Cage Bees edition.
Oh, no, not the Bees!
We gotta jump back in the Wayback Machine for this one, but I think it's worth it. Just like The Night of the Living Dead, by today's standards, and probably the studio's motivation for the Nick Cage fighting cultists in a bearsuit idiocy remake edition, it's probably considered slow, plodding, and uneventful. Police Sergeant Neil Howie is tasked to investigate the apparent abduction of a young woman who's feared to have been kidnapped as the intended sacrifice in a pagan ritual, and he traces her to a remote area of the Scottish Isles. There he finds a cult in the throes of successive poor growing seasons, desperate to appease their gods. After running down his various leads looking for the girl, Howie actually recovers her and is following her to freedom, until her happy ass leads her right back to the pursuing cultists. And that's when the curtain goes up and we realize Howie was the target the entire time. Now, damn if the Wicker Man doesn't serve up the gut punch in spades at the end as Sergeant Howie finds himself captured and condemned to die, basically burned at the stake, as a sacrifice to pagan gods he doesn't believe in. As the flames of the Wicker Man rise, the cultists recite a traditional Middle English folk song while he recites Psalm 23, and we're left to wonder if there was a moment where his faith ever failed. And number 1, Sinister. I've said it before, I'll say it again, Sinister is a modern instant classic for me. It lives rent-free in my head if I get to thinking about it to this day. Sinister sees a past his prime author played by Ethan Hawke attempt to recapture his glory by purchasing a house that once played host to a series of grisly murders. As he attempts to write the true crime novel that will once again recapture financial fame and glory, evil finds its way home until the eventual ultimate horror happens. It happens, it does. When the big reveal finally goes down, your jaw can't help but unhinge and clang off the floor. It's revealed that the mass murders of each family depicted in the old film reels that he had recovered were indeed committed by the youngest child of each family, an assumed kidnap victim in each case. Hawke realizes this far too late, as his own daughter has poisoned his coffee, and as she's dragging the axe low and slow next to his head, vows to make him famous again. Fucking chills. And that's it, guys. That's my list of 9 of my favorite horror movie endings. I think they're kind of the bleakest. Some of them are the most unsettling, and I enjoyed them all thoroughly. Let me know in the comments below what you would have put on the list if you would have swapped some out, or if you think I was way off base with any of my picks. I'd love to hear it from you. Until then, I'll see you in the next one.